2 years ago, I had bloating every single day. My energy crashed by noon, and my skin looked tired no matter how much I slept. I kept being told it was just part of getting older. What nobody told me was that my gut was at the root of all of it, and that 5 simple foods I wasn't eating were the missing piece. When I added them, everything changed within 2 weeks. I'm Barbara Lawson. I'm 65 years old, and what I'm about to share with you completely changed the way I think about gut health. For years, I thought gut health meant eating more fruits and vegetables and taking a probiotic. I was wrong. Not completely, but I was missing most of the picture. The gut is far more complex than that. When you start to understand what's actually happening inside your digestive system, you realize that you need to look at several different things at once. The bacteria themselves, the short-chain fatty acids they produce, the diversity of the microbiome, how your body breaks down fats, and the actual lining of your gut. Each of those requires something different. And most of us are only addressing 1 or 2 of them while the others quietly deteriorate. Before we get into the 5 foods, I want to ask you something. Do you have bloating that you've accepted as normal? Do you feel tired after meals, or does your energy drop in the afternoon for no clear reason? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one this week because what I found might explain what you've been experiencing for years without knowing why. Let's start with the first food. Number 1, psyllium husk. You may have heard of psyllium. It's the active ingredient in fiber supplements like Metamucil. But most women our age don't realize what it actually does inside the gut and why it's so much more powerful than just eating more vegetables. Psyllium is what I'd call a gut rescuer. When the microbiome is already struggling, when digestion is sluggish, bloating is frequent, and the bacterial balance is off, psyllium comes in and begins to remodel the gut environment in a way that almost nothing else can. Research published in the International Journal of Medicinal Sciences followed people with constipation who were given psyllium and found a significantly more pronounced improvement in their microbiome compared to healthy individuals. What was particularly interesting was the increase in specific strains of bacteria that are strong producers of something called butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that is one of the most important compounds for gut health and overall inflammation in the body. For women our age, this matters enormously because butyrate directly feeds the cells lining your colon and helps reduce the kind of chronic, low-grade inflammation that affects energy, skin, joint health, and mood. I started adding a heaped teaspoon of psyllium husk to a large glass of water every morning and drinking it immediately before it thickened. Within about 10 days, the daily bloating I had lived with for years began to ease. Within 3 weeks, it was almost entirely gone. The key is to drink it with plenty of water and to be consistent. It works cumulatively, not instantly. Start with a small amount if you've never used it before and build up gradually. It's one of the gentlest and most effective changes I've made for my gut. Number 2, artichoke. This one surprised me completely. I had always thought of artichokes as just a vegetable, something you ate occasionally and didn't think much about. But artichokes contain 2 completely different compounds that do 2 completely different things for the gut, and both of them are extraordinary. The first is inulin, a very long-chain soluble fiber that takes a long time for the gut to break down. This slow breakdown is actually the point. It provides a sustained, steady fuel source for the beneficial bacteria in your gut, feeding them over hours rather than giving them a quick spike and then nothing. Research published in the British Journal of Nutrition found that inulin from artichokes specifically increased populations of bifidobacterium, bacteria associated with antioxidant effects in the body. So you're not just feeding your gut, you're feeding the bacteria that help protect the rest of your body from oxidative damage. The second compound in artichokes is called cynurin, and what cynurin does is remarkable. It dramatically increases bile secretion. Studies showed that cynurin produced a 127% increase in bile secretion after 30 minutes and a 151% increase after 60 minutes. Why does this matter for women our age? Because bile is what your body uses to break down fats. If you're not producing enough bile, you're not absorbing fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D, vitamin K, and vitamin A properly, all of which become increasingly critical in our 60s for bone health, immune function, and skin health. Cynurin also stimulates the enzymes that break down fats, so the effect is double: more bile and better fat digestion. I started having half an artichoke with olive oil and lemon as a regular part of my lunch, and the change in how I felt after meals was noticeable within a week. Lighter, less heavy, less of that afternoon fog that used to follow a bigger meal. Before we continue, if this is already making sense to you, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing. You really can't afford to miss what's still ahead. Number 3, bone broth. Most of us think about gut health purely in terms of bacteria, probiotics, fermented foods, fiber, but we completely forget about the physical lining of the gut itself. The gut lining is a barrier. It's what keeps the contents of your digestive system inside your digestive system and prevents undigested food particles, bacterial toxins, and other compounds from leaking into your bloodstream. When that lining is compromised, which is extremely common in women our age, you develop what is called leaky gut, and the systemic inflammation that follows affects everything from joint pain to skin health to energy to mood. Bone broth works directly on this lining through 2 key compounds, gelatin and glutamine. Research published in Food Science and Nutrition found that gelatin actively prevented the increase in inflammatory markers associated with gut inflammation, and that the amino acids gelatin breaks down into, glycine and hydroxyproline, reduced inflammation not just in the colon, but in the bloodstream. This means a healthier gut lining actually reduces the inflammatory load throughout your entire body. Glutamine, the second key compound in bone broth, increases the expression of the proteins that form the tight junctions in your gut lining, essentially tightening and repairing the barrier itself. I started having a small cup of bone broth every evening, just as a warm drink before bed. And within about 2 weeks, I noticed that foods that used to cause me discomfort were affecting me much less. I believe it was the gut lining beginning to heal. Choose a good quality bone broth made from grass-fed beef or organic chicken bones, simmered for a long time to extract the maximum collagen and gelatin. You can drink it plain, add it to soups, or cook grains in it for an extra layer of gut support. Number 4, flaxseed. Flaxseed is one of the most underrated gut foods available, and it works in a way that is genuinely different from everything else on this list. Most fiber sources affect gut health in a fairly predictable, narrow way. Flaxseed is extraordinary because research found that just 10 grams of flaxseed per day altered 33 different species of bacteria in the gut, a degree of diversity impact that far exceeds most other foods studied. And the downstream effect of that bacterial diversity change was remarkable. It improved insulin sensitivity and overall insulin secretion, meaning flaxseed is not just affecting digestion, but how your entire body processes and absorbs nutrients. For women our age who are navigating hormonal changes, there is an additional benefit that I want to highlight. Flaxseed supports what is called the estrobolome, the specific part of the microbiome responsible for metabolizing estrogens. By supporting healthy estrogen metabolism through the gut, flaxseed helps the body process and excrete estrogens properly rather than allowing them to recirculate. This is particularly relevant for women in their 60s dealing with the hormonal landscape of postmenopause. I add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed to my morning yogurt every day. Ground is important. Whole flax seeds pass through the digestive system largely intact, and you don't get the full benefit. You can also add it to smoothies, soups, or sprinkle it on salads. It has a mild, slightly nutty flavor that goes with almost everything. Number 5, fermented foods. This is where everything comes together. All the foods we've talked about so far do something very specific. Psyllium rescues and restores bacterial function. Artichoke feeds beneficial bacteria and supports fat digestion. Bone broth repairs the gut lining, and flaxseed dramatically diversifies the bacterial landscape. But fermented foods do something that none of the others can. They actively increase the diversity of the microbiome itself. A landmark study published in the journal Cell in 2021 compared plant-based fiber diets with fermented food diets and found that while fiber improved the effectiveness of existing gut bacteria, fermented foods significantly increased gut microbial diversity. And diversity is your best protection. A diverse microbiome gives your body the flexibility to respond to changes, fight off pathogens, regulate inflammation, and support immune function in ways that a less diverse microbiome simply cannot. The fermented foods with the strongest evidence for gut benefit include kefir and fermented dairy, which are the only fermented foods documented to actively add new bacteria to the gut, as well as sauerkraut, kimchi, and kombucha, which support diversity and microbial health through different mechanisms. I aim for at least one fermented food every single day. My favorite is a small glass of kefir in the morning and a spoonful of sauerkraut with lunch. The combination of different fermented foods gives you a broader range of microbial benefit than sticking to just one. 2 years ago, I had bloating every day. My energy crashed by noon, and my skin looked exhausted. I blamed age. I blamed genetics. I tried more probiotics and more salads, and nothing changed. What changed everything was understanding that the gut needs to be supported on multiple levels at once. The bacterial function, the microbial diversity, the fat digestion pathway, and the physical lining itself. Psyllium, artichoke, bone broth, flaxseed, and fermented foods each address a different piece of that puzzle. Within 2 weeks of adding all 5 consistently, the bloating was almost gone. My energy in the afternoon came back. My skin started looking the way I wanted it to. And I felt like myself again in a way I hadn't in years. Start with 1 or 2 and build from there. Your gut has an extraordinary capacity to heal when you give it the right tools. If this video helped you understand what your gut has been missing, make sure to subscribe for more strategies that actually work for women our age. I'm Barbara Lawson. Thanks for watching.